Someone yawns near you, maybe across the room. Maybe you just heard it, and now it is happening to you. Your jaw is dropping. Your eyes are watering. You did not want to yawn. You did not need to yawn. But your body did it anyway. Why does another person's yawn have that kind of power over you? It is not about oxygen. It is not tiredness spreading like a cold. It reaches back into something older than that, something that was keeping groups of humans alive long before language existed. And the fact that most people never think to question it, never stop to ask why a stranger's open mouth can commandeer their jaw without permission, says something about how deep this runs. Your brain contains a system called mirror neurons. These cells fire not just when you perform an action, but when you watch someone else perform it. See someone reach for a cup and certain neurons in your motor cortex activate as if you were the one reaching. Someone smiles and your face almost answers without you deciding to. Neuroscientist Giacomo Rizzolatti first observed this in the 1990s while studying macaque monkeys, and the findings shifted how researchers understood the social brain. You are wired, at least in part, to simulate other people's experiences inside your own body. Not completely, not consciously, but enough to make you flinch when someone gets hurt, enough to feel something tighten in your chest when a stranger cries, and enough to yawn when the person sitting across from you yawns. Yawning is one of the places where that simulation becomes impossible to ignore, but not everyone catches yawns. Children under about 4 years old almost never do. People with conditions that affect social processing, including certain presentations of autism and schizophrenia, tend to show reduced susceptibility. This is not a flaw in those cases. It is a clue. It suggests that catching a yawn is not a simple reflex, the way blinking is when something flies at your face. It is tied somehow to your ability to register another person's internal state as separate and real, as something worth responding to. Developmental psychologists call that capacity theory of mind. The understanding that other people have their own thoughts and beliefs that genuinely differ from yours. It sounds obvious, but it is not something we are born with. It has to develop, and it emerges around age 3 to 5, roughly the same window in which contagious yawning first appears. The timing has not been proven causal, but it keeps showing up in the data across different research groups and different methodologies, and it is hard to look away from. The contagious yawn may simply not be able to develop until the brain has built the machinery to recognize other minds as genuinely other, until it understands that there is someone else in there to synchronize with. Researcher Andrew Gallup proposed something called the social bonding hypothesis. His argument is that yawning evolved not just to regulate individual alertness, but as a synchronization signal between members of a group. When one animal yawned, it triggered yawns in others, pulling everyone into a shared physiological state, alert together, shifting toward rest together, moving as one unit rather than a collection of individuals running on separate internal clocks. The contagious yawn spreading through a group was not copying. It was coordination, one body broadcasting a signal, and the others receiving it and adjusting without any deliberate decision being made by anyone. Gordon Gallup, a psychologist at the University at Albany, spent years on a different but related question. What does a yawn actually do? He found evidence that the wide stretch of the jaw increases blood flow around the skull, while the rush of cooler air lowers the temperature of blood reaching the brain. A slightly cooler brain is a sharper brain. People yawn more in warm environments, and less when their foreheads are artificially cooled. The pattern holds across multiple experiments. So a yawn is a reset, small and involuntary and functional. And when one person's brain needs that reset, the contagious spread through the group may be those around them picking up the signal and responding to it without anyone deciding to. Not mindless copying. Something closer to a shared biological correction happening across multiple bodies at once. For early humans, that would have mattered in ways that are hard to overstate. A group that stayed sharp together, where one person's drift automatically triggered a correction across the whole unit, would have had a real advantage over a group where individuals faded at different rates and out of sync with each other. Attention, in environments where threats were physical and immediate, was not a personal matter. It was a collective resource, and a mechanism that kept the group's attention calibrated to the same rhythm, that pulled everyone back to alertness at the same moment, would have been worth keeping around. Your yawn in response to someone else's may be a remnant of exactly that. The brain still knows how to sync, even when there is no longer a survival reason, even when you are sitting in a quiet room reading about it. Think about who actually makes you yawn. Research by Elisabetta Palagi at the University of Pisa found that contagious yawning tracks closely with emotional closeness. You are far more likely to catch a yawn from someone you love or deeply trust than from a stranger. With strangers, the contagion is weak or absent. With close friends, it is strong. With family members, it is almost immediate, sometimes before you have consciously registered that they yawned at all. The pattern of social distance maps onto susceptibility with a consistency that surprised researchers when they first began charting it carefully. It holds across species. Dogs catch yawns from their owners far more readily than from unfamiliar people. The stronger the bond between a dog and a particular person, the more easily the contagion crosses between them. A dog that has lived with you for years is more synchronized to you than to anyone else in the room, and that synchronization shows up in something as small and automatic as a yawn. The bond is not just emotional in some vague sense. It is physiological. It shows up in the body. The reflex also spreads more easily during eye contact. When you are facing someone, when your attention is fully on them. When you are present with them in a way you are not with people on the periphery. It travels along the channels where you are already connected, between people who are already paying attention to each other, which is exactly how a synchronization signal should behave. It does not broadcast randomly in all directions. It follows the lines that are already there. Your nervous system is running this background process the whole time, scanning the people around you, tracking how close you are to each of them, tuning how deeply it mirrors their physical states based on that closeness. You cannot feel it happening. There is no sensation associated with it, no awareness that the process is running. The output occasionally surfaces as your jaw dropping open in response to someone across the room doing the same thing, and then it is gone, and you move on without thinking about it. To be honest about it, none of this is fully settled. The mirror neuron theory has been challenged. Later research struggled to isolate the same cells reliably in human brains, and some scientists question whether the original findings in monkeys translate cleanly to us at all. The brain cooling theory has critics. The empathy link keeps appearing across studies but is not clean enough to call proven. Researchers have been studying yawning for decades and still cannot agree on what a single yawn does to the body, let alone why they spread between people. What the data does consistently show is that contagious yawning is not random. It follows developmental stages. It follows the topology of your relationships. It follows your attention. Something in the brain is continuously tracking other bodies, monitoring their states. And when it detects the right signal from the right person, it responds before you have any say in the matter. This happens whether you are watching someone in person, looking at a photograph of someone yawning, reading a description of it, or just thinking about it. The trigger does not need to be real. The response will be anyway. Your physical experience feels private and self-contained. Your breathing, your posture, your reflexes, the small adjustments your body makes throughout the day. It feels like yours, but it is not entirely. Your body is reading the room at all times, adjusting to the people around it, mirroring, synchronizing, picking up signals it does not bother to report to your conscious awareness. Most of this happens in systems that were running long before the thinking parts of the brain had any say over them. The yawn is just one of the places where it surfaces and becomes undeniable, because you cannot pretend it did not happen, and you cannot choose not to feel it coming. The people whose yawns reach you most easily, the ones where you barely register it before your jaw is already moving, those are the people your nervous system has quietly decided to stay close to. It has been mapping your emotional world this whole time, not through logic or conversation or deliberate thought, through something that predates all of that by a very long stretch. The same mechanism that once kept groups of early humans alert and in sync just fired in your nervous system because you read some words on a screen, and there was nothing you could do about it.